Just borrow you for a second. I just need you to stand here. You have health insurance, right?
Yes, Tufts.
Okay, cool.
What are you doing?
Thank you.
I'll be back.
I'll be waiting. Yeah. I'm sorry you had to see that. And I'm sorry you enjoyed it as much as you did. People find that believable?
No. Yeah. No.
That may have looked believable, but it did not actually look real. And it may have been believable to you because you've seen a lot of choreographed violence. And you put that in the context of all the violence that you've seen throughout your life. Now, amending Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman famously wrote that many of those who study violence do so in a world of virgins studying sex. This is because in today's world, we're pretty far removed from actual violence, which I'd argue that's a pretty good thing, right? But where we do see a lot of violence played out in so much dramatic conflict is in our entertainments. And I want to say really quickly, there's a whole lot of talk about the moral implications of showing violence on screen, violence in video games, violence on television. I don't care about any of that. What I want to do is restore a sense of objectivity in how we absorb what we perceive and what we're actually seeing versus what's actually happening. Also, for any liberal arts majors, humanities people, there's a whole lot of French theory about all of this that I'm going to extrapolate to a bit. Consider this my citation. You won't hear any French philosophers' names. Now, I'm focusing on violence because violence is the way in which we see the human body in conflict and the way in which we see the human body apply force. And we see it in incredibly unrealistic ways in so much of our entertainment. Like, let's talk about Superman. Everybody likes Superman. No one wants to see a whole movie or a whole comic book of Superman rescuing kittens from trees. It would be cute, like, once a year. What we want to see is Superman punching out bad guys. And then we want to see the bad guys go fly, like, off to Gotham City and fight Batman. And this kind of thing is nothing new. The human body doing impossible things has been part of our entertainment from the very beginning and has always been part of our mythology. And I'd like to talk a bit about what I've come to call the impossible body. The impossible body is a phrase that I coined while writing my dissertation here at Tufts. And I use it to talk about when the human body is acting outside the bounds of Newtonian mechanics, or really any science. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what happens when we see the impossible body on stage. Now, we've always gone to the theater to watch our myths and legends come to life. This was true from the days of ancient Athens where theater began. Now, in ancient Athens, when a god made his appearance on stage, it was a dude in a mask on a giant crane that was being flown above the stage, and you knew it wasn't the real god. It was a dude on a crane. And we saw, because it was a dude on a crane, that the impossible thing was not actually happening, it was being represented. The impossible body has not left the stage, and I'd like to show you a clip of a production that was done here at Tufts in 2007. This is from Stephen Sondheim's company. These are actually my former stage combat students. I did the choreography for this bit. And this is a friendly contest between a husband and wife. And and his wife took about 7 months of karate, and he wanted to see what she learned. And it's a musical comedy, so let's see what happens. It's pretty cool, huh? Now, we respond with some laughter to that, because we're seeing that it's this woman doing this thing that's not really possible. It is a comedy. It's musical comedy. There's jazz hands involved. And the reason that we find it funny, according to certain schools of psychology, is what's now being known as benign violation theory. Benign violation theory holds that in order for the pleasure response that we call humor to happen, something must both be a violation of a accepted belief, law of gravity, and must be seen as benign. Woman violating gravity in the context of a musical, fairly benign. No undergraduate hurt in that production. So we see that she's doing something that's not real. It's happening in the theater. All the strings are showing, and it's fun. But when we see it on screen, where everything's so much slicker, then the rhyme is unintentional. Then we have a slightly different response. This is really hard to do. Trinity is not funny. Trinity is badass. Now, if we think about the physics of what we just saw, and we know the formula, force equals mass times acceleration, then we look at that again and we think there was neither the mass nor the acceleration generated to kick a guy across a warehouse room into a wall and bounce him off. But we see it in this incredible way, where our entertainment has come to a place where not only are we seeing the impossible body in incredibly sophisticated ways, we're seeing it through impossible eyes. Now, I believe that that clip changed the way violence is filmed in the United States. There were some Hong Kong films that were doing that for a while. That's a whole other story. But this changed violence on screen since. Now, coming back to reality, for you Matrix fans taking the blue pill, let's think about what happens in actual attacks. Let's say you're downtown. Let's say you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Let's say you're attacked. You're not going to pull a Trinity. Real violence happens in the context of a whole lot of adrenaline, a whole lot of confusion, and fairly severe potential consequences. Many times people don't even remember what happened. But when we absorb violence, we often absorb it in our media, seeing these completely unrealistic scenes that have been beautifully composed to tell the story that the artist intended. What are the implications of this? The implications are when we are faced with violence or the potential for violence, we don't have the tools to recognize what's going on, and or we don't have the tools to deal with it in the legal system, in the recovery process, etc., etc. Taking this on a global scale. Now, all geopolitical stuff aside, let's talk about a few months ago, a team of Navy SEALs killed Osama bin Laden. Some of the critiques that came out of that made it sound like the Navy SEALs played the boss level first-person shooter badly and could have gotten more points had they done things other than what they did. Now, keeping the morality of the events out of the equation and realizing that these were real people in a real place in an incredibly dangerous situation with one chance to do the thing they came there to do and get out alive. They did not have the little energy bar in video games and the little put in a new quarter and get a new life. If we keep reality in mind when we're looking at the news when violence takes place, then we can have more objective decisions about how we judge reality. Taking this to a different place, there's a large amount of discussion that's going on about body image. And I would argue that these concepts of the impossible body in motion actually run really parallel with many of these concepts about body image. And the airbrushed bodies of supermodels in lingerie ads and the inflated physiques of superheroes are also impossible bodies. Now, the impossible body is a really great thing in our entertainment. And is really enjoyable to watch, is really enjoyable to tell stories about, and we should keep doing so, and we should keep getting better at it. But when we enjoy it, we should be firmly grounded back in reality. Thank you.